much. So welcome back to the organizational meeting for the town of Rocky Mountain House for October 17th, 2023. So this is a continued meeting, and we left off at the bylaw review. So we are at 8.1, review of the Code of Conduct bylaw. So this is our opportunity to review it. We've made quite a few changes throughout the year, as we were, maneuvering through things. Is there anything anybody wants to bring up at this time for the Code of Conduct bylaw? Counselor, Deputy Mayor Boniface, wherever you are.
Just a inquiry, I guess, Your Worship. Right now, a member of the public can bring a code of conduct to any one of us, and we had discussed that perhaps there needs to be some sort of governing committee set up so that frivolous complaints are not brought forward, so that they can be weeded out. I just wanted to know what everybody else felt about that. We had spoke about it once a while back, and I just wanted to know what everybody thought.
We were gonna put in maybe some steps, right? Counselor Caprero?
I'm okay with if we want to do that, or if they do come in, we as council, like as a whole, can get rid of the ones that we feel are frivolous. I'm wondering when it comes to who can file a complaint, do we want to limit that to any member of the public or specify to people who live in our community or own business in our community? And then
I think that would be prudent because, like, for example, in another community, they have like an open mic session and they've had some interesting groups coming from across Canada and different municipalities coming and almost like harassing that council. So I think it should be that someone who is a member of our community or a ratepayer in our community, because they could own a business, but maybe live in the county. But they have to be a member of our community to who can file. So it, rather than any individual, it should be any, on number 16, I'm on page 6 of 13, that's the page you're on, right? Yeah, now we're on the same page. So number 16, who can file a complaint? So I think any resident or taxpayer of the town of Rocky Mountain House instead of individual. How does everybody else feel? Like that's just expanding on what you said. Any comments? Councillor Hutchinson?
I just wonder if that is limiting us. Like I understand where that's going, but let's say we're at a Alberta Muni conference and somebody does something really, really bad. Is that limiting us to have that?
It would just have to be brought about by somebody that lives in our community, is on council, or that has a ratepayer in our community. Obviously, if it's something really dumb at some other place, then if the public would know about it from our community and can address it. The idea is not to have somebody from some obscure organization that's just wanting to cause havoc, tie us up with issues as part of their whatever agenda, like they are, not that they would, but just that. So does everybody feel comfortable with making that small change? Is there anything else? Councillor Boniface, where your stuff was in the formal complaint process on number 18. Is that where you had your notes at?
Yes, that is correct, and I also agree with Councillor Caprero on who can file a complaint, and I think it should be somebody who's at least either a resident or a ratepayer within our community. We could open ourselves up to a lot of interpretation, I guess, otherwise.
So your formal complaint process, that's where you think that there should be something like where they have to do the informal complaint first and then step to the formal?
I guess I'm just asking, and speaking with some other counselors from other communities, one of the things they have done is they put it out there to 3 community members. So if somebody at large in the community is bringing a complaint against a counselor, the CAO would take that complaint and give it to that 3-person committee. They would review it and say whether or not they felt that it had merit to move forward. And if they felt that it had merit to move forward, then, and that's not saying they do it with the council themselves, it's only at a member at large. And that way, if they feel it's frivolous, they do not bring it forward. If it's good, they bring it forward. And it's just taking the pressure off counselors within the thing. They know they've got another process that has to be gone through before somebody just up and throws something at us.
How does everybody else feel about putting something in when they're coming with a formal complaint? Sort of like a vetting process for that, kind of ideally, right? (18.8) If council is of opinion that the complainant is frivolous, vexatious, or not made in good faith, council may reject the complaint. If council rejects the complaint, council shall provide written notice to the complainant of the council's decision. So then that, we put that in there, do you think that covers that?
We have that in there. The only, I think this is good, but I guess the kickback from the community is, we're gonna have each other's back here and we're gonna stand up. So again, if it's taken out of our hands to something else, then it's not us bringing it. I'm not protecting Councillor Schiffel from something because I like him. It's
Well, 'cause
somebody
we're
else.
on council together.
We're on council together. Somebody else is driving that bus and we just have to follow through on it.
So that would be a cost item, right?
It's a volunteer position in other communities, so.
Okay. What does everybody else feel about something like that? I know that, I think that the MGA is gonna have to do a little bit of work about this because every community has been having wild problems with this type of part of the thing. Go ahead.
I'm fine with doing nothing. I just wanted to put it out there for consideration that, we do have things in place. It was just a thought and
Okay. Counselor, Counselor Phillips, sorry, it's getting late in the day, I apologize.
So, the biggest downfall with 18.8 is the fact that council's policing itself. And from a public point of view, that it's like the police investigating the police, it has connotations of not being good. So, I do like taking this and doing something with it. I don't know if the something is having community members or what that something is. Maybe it's a blend of community members and council members. I don't know, but in the previous complaints we've had, 18.8 kind of went out the door because council.
We resolved it.
Exactly. So I don't know what we could put 18.8 with. I'm not sure. But
So,
just a question of Mr. Kraus on code of conducts in general. This was something that was mandated by the provincial government, correct? And once they mandated it, it became for lack of a
Nightmare.
better word, a gong show in a lot of communities. So is this something that maybe we should put another resolution forward at AB Muni saying, hey,
More-
the province put this in play, can we get the province or AB Munis or maybe RMA and AB Munis can come together and have a governing body that can take care of some of these complaints? And that may solve the problem you're talking about, is we can have these complaints go to this body, and if they're found valid, they move on. If they're found not valid, then they end. But it's not council making that decision.
I wonder if, because sometimes just generally, I like where you're going as well, both of you. And so now that you brought that up and you think about it, because really we vetted everything with our legal counsel first. So maybe we need to put in there at some time, like 18.8, if legal counsel and has, you know, like, because some of the time that's where we got, like, where we got our direction from was from legal counsel, said, oh, this is frivolous or vexatious or whatever, then, like, should we put legal advice in for the time being until we can figure out if we want, a committee? Because then we don't have to, like, we can just put, if upon advice of legal, because then that covers us for, like, we didn't just say it's frivolous, we talked to legal counsel about it. Or do you think that's tiness that we have to talk to legal counsel every time? I just thought, rather than trying to, because then now we have to come up with scope and, you know, like, it's really hard to get volunteers to even apply for where they get paid for on certain, committees and stuff, right? That, if we put legal advice in there, because that's how we've been doing it, because then that also says, well, no, we've obtained legal advice, or we've, I think that the government will have to come up with an ombudsman, some sort of policy that, where things are vetted through that person, or something. What does everybody feel, leaving it, putting legal advice in? Counselor Phillips, your light's still on, so, no, that's okay, but if I just go around, Counselor Chappelle, do you wanna, should we just leave it? Like, maybe just, if I do a quick poll, do you wanna just leave it for now? Or do we wanna put something else in there for 18? So I'm gonna say, just so we can see if we're gonna continue with this discussion or not. Counselor Chappelle,
I'm okay with leaving it.
okay,
I'm okay with leaving it, but I would like to maybe look at putting a resolution forward at AB Munis or the AB Munis caucus, the leadership caucus, one of the two, just to somehow get a governing body that will help all municipalities with these problems, that doesn't involve councils.
okay. Counselor Caprero,
For 18.8, I could go either way.
okay. I'm fine with if we leave it, or if we put something of that we've sought advice. Either way, we're deciding right now. I like the idea, but do you think we need maybe some time to, like, hash it through?
I agree, we need more time than what we have today to deal with this. I'm very happy with Councillor Phillips' suggestion of taking it to a convention to bring it forward. And I think that's a really good idea. Leave it the way it is and move on today.
Counselor Hutchinson, and then I'll, same question. Do you think we should leave it or work on it a little bit?
I think it's, you can leave it for now, but I think I forgot that we were still in the other meeting.
Yes, that's okay. That's all right.
You know, leave it for now, and maybe the solution would be to have admin bring back information on what other municipalities have in place.
So
I don't know what's worth
maybe we could
researching later.
reach out to other mayors and something, you know, to see what they're doing. Everybody was talking about it at Alberta municipalities that way. Counselor Ald,
I think there's a few things in here that aren't right, that need looked at. I think it should be brought back, the whole policy, to council at a later date.
okay. Do you want to highlight any of those things now? Just so that we're kind of can start coming up with some,
Yes and no, there's like, 18 or 19, sorry, 18.8, 18.9, it should probably just be gotten rid of because it doesn't work. That's just in the, right off the top of my head, but
okay. No,
who
that's
can
fine.
do it, who can submit them, what the grounds are. There's lots of things I would like to go over.
Improve. Okay. So with that being said, would everybody be okay with just that one little change today then, where it says you have to be from the municipality? Where was that at? Who can file a plaint, on number 16.1 for now, that have to be a member of our community or ratepayer? And then bring this back at a later time? Counselor Hutchinson?
I just have a question for staff. Is that appropriate, or would it be beneficial to just bring it all back for discussion? I think that would be easier.
It would probably be easier to bring it back for full discussion, because we can only amend the bylaw by bylaw, so we would
Have to do 3 readings?
Yeah, we would have to draft an amending bylaw just for one clause, and if council's thinking of changing other clauses,
Okay.
it's just administratively, it's easier, but just one.
Okay.
full discussion.
Excellent question. So with that being said, I'd like to make a motion that we accept for information the bylaw 2022/14 Council Code of Conduct bylaw, and we ask administration to bring it back to us for further discussion at a later date, whenever that fits to the life. Any further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor of that motion? And those opposed, and that's carried. So, 8.2, the review of the procedural bylaw. I don't know why I don't have that in front of me. And so, is there anything anybody wants to, Counselor Caprero? Oh, sorry, Counselor Phillips.
Yes, just on item 4A/2, where it says council meetings shall adjourn after 4 hours of commencing unless members of council by a 2/3 majority vote to agree to extend the time. If our council meetings go over 4 hours, they go over 4 hours. I think having us come out of closed session, which, we're probably gonna go over 4 hours today. I think this is just a redundant thing, but we should just remove it from the procedural bylaw. If we go over 4 hours, we go over 4 hours.
I have a question about that, because it's 4 hours, Alberta's, when you're paying someone to be in a meeting, right, you have to give them a break every 4 hours? Do you think that's why it's there? Like, I just don't wanna breach one thing by saying another thing. So should we put in, as long as you have a break every 4 hours or whatever the Alberta government mandates? Do we have to put that in or no?
No, your worship, really what it's in the procedural bylaw for is just for council to have the opportunity to say, look, we've been at it for 4 hours, let's recess this to another day.
Okay.
Or, then plus it's also a conscious decision of council, okay, we're now into our next per diem.
Right,
So,
okay.
And I think that's probably a given that we're all aware that after 4 hours, our per diem changes. I just think, I think it's just redundant to have to continually extend and make motions to extend when.
Yeah, cause you have to
It-
stop, especially if you're in
We have to
closed
stop,
session.
and if we're in closed session, we gotta come out back into live camera, make the motion, then go back into closed session. For me, it's a redundant thing. I think we should just remove it from the procedural bylaw, that's all.
Okay, and so because it's a bylaw, same thing applies, we'd have to change the bylaw. Do you wanna see what else is going on before we fully decide on that today?
Yes.
Counselor Caprero, do you have something, same thing or different thing?
A different thing. I just wanted to have some discussion on the time that our meetings take place. So as of right now, our regular council meetings, we start at 1 PM. Our CAL meetings, we start at 6 PM. Just wanted some discussion on how that works for people's schedules. Is it easier to move it to the morning? At the very least, even the CAL meetings to the morning, or one if we stick with one for the regular council meetings, just that evening meeting. I find for myself, I'm already pretty drained by that time, and it just kind of interrupts with your home time, your family time. Spouse may be home, kids may be home from school. It just, if we can keep the meetings to business hours,
Yeah.
would just be kind of nice. But for myself too, but I don't know if it works for everyone, that's why I want discussion. If our meetings can start at like 9 AM, and then it just gives the rest of the day to have and plan appointments and whatever else, so I just wanted some discussion on that.
So, I agree, I don't mind starting at 9 on our regular ones when they start at 1, but even if they started at, so I'm thinking not necessarily for myself, but for our council and for the next council, because that's what this would be. And so my opinion is that we want people that have work and jobs and family, and if we started at, say, 9:30 or 10, then they can look after whatever they were supposed to do, like phone calls, emails, whatever, with their business, and then they can slip away So if it started at, say, 10, and then I also like the idea of having one evening meeting, so that if you are working for someone else, you're not taking, oh, you need another Tuesday off, or you need another blah, blah, blah off, like, because not everybody's gonna be self-employed, they might have a job at Sobeys, or they might have a job someplace else, right? And so, that's my 2 cents. I love the idea of moving the Tuesday mornings meetings, but the Cal meetings, I wouldn't mind keeping them in the evenings, just to free up, like, you can get to the bank and be at work. It's, you know, we're juggling enough. Anyways, that's my opinion, but I see Counselor Phillips has his light, and then Counselor Hutchinson has their lights for the discussion.
Definitely in support of moving the council meetings to 9:30, whatever, somewhere around there. It's, have it at the beginning of the day, get it over with, and then you have the full rest of your day to do something. When it's at 1 o'clock, you're kind of hamstringed by how much time you have in the morning and how much time you have after. If it's just brought in the morning, then it just frees up council's time to do whatever they need to afterwards. So for the 2 regular council meetings, yes, 9 o'clock I would be in favor of for sure. The committee of the whole meetings, I do see where by 8 o'clock at night, you can feel the energy in the room getting low, and we're all getting tired, and we're all starting to see numbers and call people by weird names because we're tired. And it does take staff's time away from the day, because now they're here at night running the meeting for us. So my preference would be to see that maybe move to a 1 o'clock meeting as opposed to a 6 o'clock meeting. That's just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, would it be like, if later in the day, say like 3 o'clock? You know what I mean? Because then,
Just a little
Then-
earlier so that we're, you know,
yeah,
because if that meeting goes on till 9:30, 10 o'clock, we're probably not at our best mental capacity at 10 o'clock at night, and we're not maybe making the best decisions, or we're just trying to hurry decisions. I would like to be able to have time to focus on a decision. If we need a good robust debate, then we have it, and we're not cutting a meeting short because everyone's tired.
right, and we have more productivity. Counselor Hutchinson?
I had another question for staff on if we were to change meeting times, would that just be an amendment to the bylaw? And to bring up I forget what we called it, the policy and agenda governments, that's coming up for review. So I guess there's 2 questions. Would we just amend the bylaw for times and then revisit the entire policy once we got the policy and governance package together?
Yep, so, Your Worship, we're already working on a procedural bylaw amendment to incorporate the Governance and Priorities Committee and with the terms of reference. So we would just be doing these amendments at the same time.
So we
So-
can make decisions today that would be in effect in the future, because we're already doing it. We could say, we'd like to see this when we come to talk about the governance portion.
Yeah, so Your Worship, the Governance Priority Committee, I think we're looking at November to bring that back as a procedural bylaw amendment. What council decides today will incorporate into that same amendment. So it'd have first reading in November, and we would time it so it's second and third reading in December, so when it's passed by council going into 2024, it's all set.
So we'll just continue with the discussion for now. I see Counselor Boniface would like to say something.
Oh, you're right. Just a question, I would support Councillor Capero in her ask to go to 9 o'clock. My only concern would be I've noticed that about 50% of our meetings seem to run over the 3-hour time period, which would put us over lunch. So, that would affect our staff that's in here with us as well. You need to put Snicker bars in so I don't get hangry.
So would we have just a question to the group, would we have recess for half an hour or something, to break for lunch? Like,
Yeah.
cause 9 till 12 is only 3 hours, right? And we already discussed changing it, cause we're over 4 lots of times.
I
Counselor
would think a
Phillips?
lot of that would depend on the package itself.
Yeah,
If it's a lighter package, then we would just get through it.
get through it,
Yeah.
it's good with me.
Well, being cognizant of people maybe with, health,
Dietary health.
dietary,
Yeah.
you know, that, Counselor Hutchinson,
I like your idea with, you know, maybe scheduling a half an hour break, but I would want to, encourage, if that was the case, that it's feeding ourselves and not, a cost to the municipality.
yes,
on
no,
our
yes,
lunch.
yes, no, you'd
Yeah.
pack a lunch or you'd run home for 20 minutes or whatever. We wouldn't be buying council lunch, it would be, we would schedule, a schedule, just know that we would have a half an hour lunch break, at noon. But how does that affect, or an hour? So how would that, Mr. Kraus, how would that affect staffing? Because they get an hour for lunch, yes, so it'd have to break for 1 hour. I mean, we want to make it a shorter day, not a longer day,
Yeah,
right?
no, your worship, we would adjust to, if council took a half an hour recess, we would just adjust to that for staff.
Okay, it would work,
So,
it would
yeah.
work for staff?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm in favor of that. How does everybody else, like, we don't have to take a whole hour. An hour's a long time if you're just gonna have a sandwich or something and quickly move on to the next thing, and then you're not tying up the whole day, like, yeah. Your light is still on.
Yeah, my turn.
Oh, yeah, okay, good, excellent.
Is it possible then that we could start earlier than 9 o'clock? My day starts at 5, so I can be here
Yeah.
nice and early.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I like to be able to start, like, deal with work stuff, and like, we open 8, so it would give me starting at 9 would give me an hour to address staff issues, but I can make it work with whatever, how do other people feel about starting at 8? That gives us 4 hours till a lunch break, right? Counselor Ald, how does that work for your
That
schedule?
doesn't work for my schedule at all. I open the shop every morning
Yeah.
at 7:30, 8 o'clock. I need to get everybody going at the shop before I come to the meeting, so 9 would be the only way that would work for me.
Okay,
And your worship, administration would prefer 9 also, it just gives,
Okay.
staff start at 8:30, it gives them that half hour to set up and
same thing, to
Yeah.
check their emails and get organized and be prepared.
there.
Yeah. So Counselor Phillips, your light's
Just,
on again?
yeah, just, going back to the 4-hour time limit, we are past the 4-hour time limit, so I'd like to make a motion that we
So
extend our meeting beyond the
your-
4 hour.
Your worship, just procedural, we have 2 meetings today, neither have gone over 4.
Oh, you're correct.
Okay, thank you.
You are correct.
Thank you.
I stand corrected on that.
Yeah, okay,
We've
no
just been
problem.
sitting here for 4 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, so I think, what I'm hearing is that everybody's in agreement, and correct me if I'm wrong, and we'll ask administration to say that the meetings on Tuesdays and this third Tuesday start at 9 o'clock rather than 1 o'clock. And we'll go half an hour for lunch, and put that into the update of the thing, bring this back to us in November when you're bringing it back anyways. So the COW meeting, so normally it starts at 6 o'clock, and I'm just talking to the people who will be affected, so home hardware's open to 6, right? But I don't always have to close. If we move that up a little bit on that date and still kept it, are we looking at, would 1 o'clock work? So then we're running into the same problem we're having now, right, where it's goofy on the day. What about if it started at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock? 3 o'clock, it could start, and then 3 hours is only 6 o'clock. Mr. Kraus, how do you feel about the COW meeting start
Just
time?
for, council's consideration, typically you have one evening meeting just to allow the opportunity for public to address council who cannot make a daytime meeting. So that just needs to be
Okay.
consideration of council.
Okay. So, but could that start at 5 instead of at 6? How does anybody feel about that? Leave it at 6? I'm fine, I'm just trying to, Counselor Hutchinson.
Yeah, I would like to see it a little bit early too, but then we run into the same problem with food.
Yeah,
that we were
okay.
thinking about in the meeting
Okay.
before, but,
Okay,
I would be in favor of 4 o'clock.
yeah. So for now, kind of what I'm hearing is, or what I think is maybe we'll try to start the regular ones at 9 and we'll leave the Cal meetings till the evening to give opportunity for public to deal with it and just see how it goes. Start at 5 instead of 6. That to give you enough time.
Since only one of us has small children at home, I'd like to make sure that works out for Councillor Caparo, starting at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
That would be, no, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
James can make macaroni and cheese. Okay, so, and moving forward, just, do you feel that would be fair to working, people with young families? I think that would, 5 o'clock would be still okay. You could get a sitter, or you could make lunch and have it ready before you walked out the door at 1:45 or whatever. Yeah, cause like, not just us, but like for future people, so. Mr. Kraus, do you have those, that 9 o'clock and then 5 o'clock? Now, is there other things in this that we want to look at? Because we're gonna talk about this,
So you were, just a
Yes.
question from administration. So was maintaining an evening meeting at 5, do you really want to address if a meeting goes over 4 hours, or just amend that to 6 hours? Because if you're starting at 5 and you're, as Councillor Phillips said, could get to 10 o'clock at night and you're tired, do you still want that provision in there where council can actually just adjourn the meeting and move the other items to the next meeting?
I think if we're getting to a position where we're all tired and there's 4 or 5 agenda items, I think we could make that decision during that meeting to just table those to
rather
a
than
future
to interrupt and,
rather than, yeah, I just think the time limit just needs to go. I think it's just
Yeah.
kind of irrelevant for the
Councillor
procedural
All.
bylaw.
sorry, I apologize. Counselor Ald,
This is, if we're done with the times out, I want to bring up some questions and procedure regarding 16 rules for motions.
okay, can, I just put a hold on that? So, Mr. Kraus was asking if we want to keep or get rid of that thing, and does everybody feel that
I would-
getting rid of it is okay?
Yeah, getting rid of it.
What
would
number is
be,
that again? 14 something? 4 something?
4A2.
Yeah, where we don't have to stop what we're doing and make a motion?
Yeah.
So is everybody okay with that change? Yes, everybody seems to be okay with that change. I'm just, nobody's arguing against it. Okay, now Counselor Ald, the next things that you'd like to change or look at.
Well, for discussion, 16 is our rules for motion. A motion must be made by a councillor prior to any debate or vote occurring. We don't do that right now, so we're not following the procedure.
Right,
And then it allows 13 procedures at meetings for, like, if we have the motions on the floor, then councillors who have been assigned their turn to speak may only be interrupted by other councillors, including the chair, if they're discussing a subject, no motions on the floor. So, as George Cuff and everybody keeps referring back to him, he says that what's the point in having a discussion until you have a motion on the floor, because you're talking about nothing. So once we get a motion on the floor, then we debate it, then everybody has the right to be heard, and you're not gonna be jumping back and forth and interrupting, and if we follow our policy, then we need to get the motions on the floor and then discuss. And that is not the way we do it right now.
yeah. So when we took that, course, that was asked, that parliamentary procedures course, effective meetings, and everybody seems to have different opinions of best how it works. So I like to be able to have a discussion about agenda topics before we start throwing motions out, because sometimes once a motion's out, then you're debating the motion and you don't have a chance to really have like good discussion on it. So we can change it or whatever, but that's how I would prefer to keep running the meetings. Anybody else have any opinions on that? Counselor Hutchinson?
I have opinions on that, but I just want to go over the course that we took at EOEP. I would like to see maybe we could bring that in for all of council and possibly staff to go through it and have, you know, at that time discussions to make sure that we are all on the same page. It did go into details on, you know, what does work for one, works for another or not, but the important part is for all of us to be on the same page and to all of us to be agreeing on how we're running meetings, and I don't think we're quite on the same page right now. So I know they did say that it can be offered to the entire group, so maybe that's something that we look into bringing in. It could be through a Zoom presentation, whatever, and keep costs down, but what's your thoughts are on that?
Yeah, I think that was a really good course. And the other thing they suggested at the course for that is you could do it regionally. So if you wanted to have it again in our area, we could say, we're gonna host this in Rocky Mountain House, and any elected official within whatever 200 kilometers or whatever could attend that. Cause it's just a matter of giving them a host place, and, you know, I love that idea.
And I think it's important to have all of us in the same room, because the three of us that were there may have interpreted things completely different, and there was no time for us as a group to have discussion on it. And I think that's, you know, communication is one of the biggest things, so.
Yeah, it didn't actually give a lot of time to even discuss at our individual tables what we thought. It was like, I mean, he packed a lot into a short amount of time. He could have, yeah. Counselor Phillips?
And I think then that would go to address Counselor Ald's issue with 16A is it's in our procedural bylaw, but we're not following it. Should that be in our procedural bylaw? Should we change that to match our style? Because each council is probably gonna have a style of, you know, how they debate things, and some councils may be more formal than others may be more informal. So, you know, is 16A being followed right now in our council meetings? No, it's not. Should it be? I guess that would be a council discussion, and maybe that's a discussion better had when we have a, you know, a parliamentary person that can go through our bylaws and say, is this working for you? Is this not working for you? Should you change that?
And also, not necessarily everybody took that course, right? Like, three of us took that course and did get 3 different impressions out of it. It's, I mean, it's hard to say what we should do. Counselor Ald?
For me personally, the meetings are not working the way they are right now. So whether we bring this back or remove that out of the policy or whatever we decide to do, but we either need to follow the policy that we have or change it to suit the council. But the way it's working right now is, I don't think it's effective or time efficient.
Well, we could adjust that and then look at it and see what it looks like later. Mr. Kraus, I see
Yeah,
that
just,
you have a good,
yeah, and just
Yeah.
to remind council has amended this procedural bylaw. So if you look at section 15, procedures for administration to present items for council consideration. The procedure is a 2-stage discussion of motions shall be admin presents and clarifies with council. And then there's a discussion among council. Now, how do you define discussion versus making a decision? I mean, that's probably the vague part in the procedural bylaw.
so really we're kind of on track. We're not actually debating motions until we talk about it. Everybody gives their opinion about where we're at. But you're saying that we're allowed to have a discussion when it's brought forward?
Council has put this into this procedural bylaw, but I guess it's up to council. What do you define a discussion as versus debating a motion or decision?
So I like to not be like, you know, rules and stuff if we're allowed to ask questions, sometimes that gets into what our opinion is, so that you can work it out with your colleagues. Counselor Chappelle.
Your worship, just a question for Mr. Kraus, and it's the previous council before this term. How did they do it? Did they do it where they put a motion forward, or did they do it the same way?
That's so many
Combination.
motions ago. No, I mean, an item was presented by admin, they questioned admin, some discussion for sure, then a motion was put forward. So, pretty much the same way, but probably more to the point and concise to the item on the agenda.
So I guess my question to that is, how did this get put into this procedural bylaw? At what point there had to be a council who was doing it this way, and that's how
Oh,
it
it's
started?
this council put this in.
Oh, so,
Section 15? Yes.
16A?
Oh, that's always been in. Council added or revised section 15.
Okay, I do recall that,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, so if 15 and 16 kind of work together, are we happy with just leaving it for now? Or do we want to debate some more and come up with some clarification? And are there any other items on that? Like to me, 15 pretty much covers what we're doing, is accurately correct. And every mayor is gonna, or chairman is gonna have their own style and comfort level. And so I will try to endeavor to make Councillor Auld happy. But, I mean, I'm the chairman as well, so it has to kind of work for me, and I feel like we're close. Not everybody's gonna agree with how a chairman runs a meeting, so that's just part of life. Seat will be open in 2 years. So with that being said, can we move forward on this, or do we need to make some changes, or can we just go forward? Is there anything else that anybody would like us to look at in here?
I think the changes that Councillor Caprero had put forward, and then the one for the 4-hour time meeting, and then as well the new committee that we're looking at, I think if we blend all that together and come up with a new new bylaw, then we can look at that and debate the merits of that when it's presented to us.
Okay. So with that being said, can I just have you make a motion, Councillor Phillips, so that we can move forward?
I'll make a motion that we accept,
Have administration
have
make
it-
the
yeah,
changes and bring
have
it back to us.
Yeah, have administration make changes to the council procedural bylaw and bring forth to a November council meeting. As discussed, the changes as discussed.
Sounds. To a future meeting, how about? Can I make that amendment?
Just
To
a future meeting, so that'll
That
leave
covers
it-
all our
That'll leave
bases.
it open to whatever meeting or admin
Administration.
decides to put it to.
So with that being said, is there any debate on the motion on the table? I see none. Councillor Auld?
Can I add one other brief change?
Certainly.
13J1, have that removed when a councillor is discussing a subject and no motion is on the floor.
I'm sorry, which number? 13 what?
13J states councillors who have been assigned their turn to speak may only be interrupted by other councillors, including the chair. One is when a councillor is discussing a subject and no motion is on the floor. If we leave everything else in there, once councillors exceeded the time to speak, call for orders, point of privilege, point of order, that all works.
This is part of parliamentary procedure, right, Mr. Kraus, on Robert Rules of Order?
Well, your worship, that's kind of contradictory to section 15 right now, the way it reads.
Okay.
Because what it's saying, you can't discuss a subject if there's no motion on the floor.
Okay, I think that should be removed then, I, right? J-I?
J1, yeah.
J, oh, sorry, J1. Okay. So we'll add that to our things, and so we still have a motion on the floor by Counselor Phillips. I don't think that changes the motion, it just makes a change to what the motion is asking to do. So we'll proceed with any further debate or questions or comments on the motion. Now I don't see any again, and so we'll move forward with calling that to vote. All in favor of Counselor Phillips' motion, and opposed, and that's carried. So we're getting closer to the end. We're at number 9, information items, none. Number 10, other information, or other items, none. And we do have a closed session for appointments to public meetings. So I would like, do we want to have a break? Do I do a break? Or can we just, we'll have a 5-minute break, 10-minute break? 5-minute break before we proceed to the closed session. Thank you very much. So we've just come back from recess, and we have closed session items today, so I'm looking for a motion.
I
Counselor
will make a
Phillips.
motion to go into closed session.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So we've just come out of closed session, and this is, again, the organizational meeting for the Town of Rocky Mountain House for October 17th, 2023. And I'm ready to make a motion. I'm going to make a motion that Mimi Cole and Tom Hanel are on, have been appointed to the library board, and that Peter Anathopoulos, I'm close, is appointed to the policing committee, and Clay's name disappeared. Clay Jotham is on the Parks and Rec Board, Recreation, Parks and Community Services Board. That's my motion. Is any,
And the hospital,
we will,
oh, okay,
yeah, because those are just appointments. Okay, and so, all in favor of, any questions on that motion? I think we solved that one. Okay, so all in favor of that motion? And that's carried. And seeing that concludes our business for today, I will adjourn the meeting. Meeting adjourned.